Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, my name is Dr. Ian Phillips, and we have some more breaking news here with respects to the job market. The number of NILFs, or the people not in the labor force, what a name for that, has increased by 832,000 right now, and which means that we now have risen from 104.97 million people not in the labor force to 105.8 million people not in the labor force, which is a pretty crazy and dramatic increase, something that we have not seen since the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, what does that mean? What does not in the labor force means? Because many people don't necessarily understand that per se. Well, the American population is you can kind of visualize them as being divided into three principal labor market categories. First, you're gonna have the unemployed. The employed, right? People who are at a business. It's straightforward. They operate at a job. They work at a business or they own a business for that matter. The second, these are people who are unemployed. But the government statistics does not mean that a person who's unemployed means that you lack a job. To be counted as unemployed, you normally must lack employment, but be available to work and have actively searched for work during the preceding 4 weeks, or be temporarily laid off and expecting to return. So employed is a little bit different there. And then third, everybody else is somebody who's not in the labor force. You have no job and you're not actively searching under the government's definition of actively searching. So kind of interesting there. The group includes, people like a 82-year-old retiree. It's going to include people like 19-year-olds attending college, a parent caring for 3 children, person recovering from a surgery, a spouse managing a household. All these people here would maybe be considered people who are not in the labor force. And yes, someone who wants employment but has become so discouraged that they have no hope of finding a job. Those people are also inside that same exact category. So it's a really weird statistic here, but the fact that it has rose, right, by 800,000 is actually crazy to me. And some people will sit here and say, all right, well, we have a labor shortage in this country, and it's just not true. It's just not true. The majority of Fortune 500 recruiters actually admit to posting ghost jobs, right, on their pages. Their hiring pages. 80% of jobs are hired through some form of nepotism, meaning that if you don't know somebody, then you're not able to get a role. Who you know is where you go, as the common saying is what I've been saying for years. And kids nowadays are actually more likely to be unemployed the more education that they get, right? So that's another hurdle that a lot of people are facing. And so no wonder the number is rising as high as it is. And you pair that with the fact that the economy is absolutely in the toilet. We're in a recession right now. Some people say we're not in a recession, but I think it's pretty clear that we are in a recession. When the price of goods just absolutely skyrockets, 2, 3x, yeah, you're probably in a recession. Your money's not really worth that much. I don't know if you want to call it a recession, call it whatever you want, right? Tomato, tomato. But at the end of the day, it's still something that we eat. And, and the economy is no different here. And so, honestly, I feel like my response to this would be, how on earth have we possibly let our politicians get to this point when we know that we have government programs that actually work to get people back into the labor force? If you guys remember during the Great Depression, it's always so funny to me. One of the generation that pisses me off the most is even worse than the boomers, is the silent generation. And, the reason that they piss me off is because they grew up at a time with FDR. And FDR was a dude who had a crazy government jobs program, right? He tried to pull people and back into the workforce and stimulate the economy, financially, get us out of the Great Depression. And it worked, right? And of course, we had World War II, which really helped that process out here. But the government jobs program was a great thing. And nowadays, if you do it, you're somehow like a radical socialist, left-wing, neo-Marxist, communist, right? They don't even know what the fucking words mean, but that's what people will say that you are. Like Mamdani, for example, right? Putting people back to work. There's over 100,000 kids in New York now who have summer jobs. Isn't that a great thing? During the wintertime, people can get jobs by shoveling snow. Isn't that a great thing for the community? But yet you're going to have people sit here and just going to be foaming at the mouth over this, right? And say, no, we can't do these government jobs programs. This is not, this is socialism. This is communism. It's like, no, it's like, this is a sign that you're stupid and you need to reevaluate your own morals and your economic agenda. right? Because that's how you stimulate an economy. And that's what we need to be doing to get our people back to work. It's common sense, but apparently common sense ain't so common anymore. And so, I don't know, we no longer live in a world with Thomas Paine, and the Thomas Paines that do exist, they're all ignored. So, unfortunate as it may be, I don't see this problem getting any better anytime soon. Again, what do you think people are now being like, oh, we're making so much money hand over fist. Like, we want to stay at home now and only have one person work in the household. Like, no, that's not what's happening. People are not being able to find jobs. They're getting laid off. It's gotten ridiculous at this point. And we need to be preaching constantly to try to get things better. And so, again, that's the role here of the channel. So try to preach for some good. But with that said, guys, hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe for some more content here. My name is Dr. Ian Phillips. You can follow me on social media at Ian Phillips USA and try to get us 600 subscribers. And we'll talk to you later. Peace.